The importance of coal can't be underestimated. We've been extracting coal for hundreds of years. Estimates put it that in the UK alone, we extracted nearly 150,000 tonnes of coal in the decade between 1551 and 1560. This had snowballed by the turn of the last century, when between 1901 and 1910 it's estimated that we extracted nearly 250 million tonnes of coal. The rise of coal mirrors the rise of industry, and ultimately the rise of empire. We'll discuss a lot of the technical innovations and spin-offs from the rise of coal in other blogs in the months to come. But first I want to talk about Joe and the chance encounter that I had up in Doncaster when researching this story. I was reading this book in a hotel on the way to a work trip. I noticed that the table opposite me was discussing coal and talking about some of the history and some of the experience that they'd had. After a while I got talking to them and I met a guy called Joe who'd worked in the industry his entire life. He told me about some of the experiences he'd had at the Brodsworth Colliery up just north of Doncaster. He talked about the camaraderie he had with his fellow workers. He talked about the changes in the industry. He talked about the end of his career when he worked on closing several of the mines. It was fascinating to hear some of the stories that he had about the fact that they used to nickname the colliery the Queen's Colliery because apparently it supplied places like Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle. He missed the coal industry. He couldn't understand why there's still 500 years worth of coal in the ground that we weren't extracting. He didn't have much to say about wind turbines, nuclear power or gas-fired power station, but it did get me thinking about the emotional connection we have with coal, and it really changed my idea of what this first story on coal would be about. I want to talk a bit about our relationship with coal and why coal means so much to us. Coal holds significant importance to communities around the world. Donald Trump made coal a clear cornerstone of his election campaign. It made me reflect on some of the experiences I've had with coal. For example, my family have a strong connection with coal in the South Wales valleys. Indeed, 9 members of my family were killed in 1892 at the Park Slip Colliery disaster on the 26th of August, the youngest of whom was only 17. My family still respect coal for some reason. There's something that the community rallies around and remembers that the colliery was the heart of the community. My interaction with coal goes deeper. Aberthorpe Power Station, which is a coal-fired power station, was the first power station I visited at the age of about 9 when it was part of a National Power Open Day. So coal was probably a major influence on my life. The importance in terms of economic development linked to coal is clear, and we'll cover that in a lot more detail in many of the stories in the coming months. But it was also, and still is, really important in terms of the collective psyche of many communities across the world. I've got a lot more information about this at ngstory.org, where you can read up on some of the sources that I've used, and also some of the links to the other stories that we'll be covering in future months. Thanks again.